The world is not in your books and maps.
They waited anxiously for him to go on.
Well?
The farmer continued, approaching his point with slow relish.
He came riding on a big black horse in at the gate, which happened to be open, and right up to my door. All black he was himself, too, and cloaked and hooded up, as if he did not want to be known. Now what in the Shire can he want? I thought to myself. We don't see many of the big folk over the border. And anyway, I had never heard of any like this black fellow. Good day to you, I says, going out to him. This lane don't lead anywhere, and wherever you may be going, your quickest way will be back to the road. I didn't like the looks of him, and when Grip came out, he took one sniff and let out a yelp as if he had been stung. He put down his tail and bolted off, howling. The black fellow sat quite still.
I come from yonder,
he said, slow and stiff-like, pointing back west. Over my fields, if you please.
Have you seen Baggins?
He asked in a queer voice, and bent down towards me. I could not see any face, for his hood fell down so low, and I felt a sort of shiver down my back. But I did not see why he should come riding over my land so bold. Be off, I said. There are no Bagginses here. You're in the wrong part of the Shire. You had better go back west to Hobbiton, but you can go by road this time.
Baggins has left. He is coming. He is not far away. I wish to find him. If he passes, will you tell me? I will come back with gold.
No, you won't, I said. You'll go back where you belong, double quick. I give you 1 minute before I call on my dogs. He gave a sort of hiss. It might have been laughing, and it might not. Then he spurred his great horse right at me, and I jumped out of the way, only just in time. I called the dogs, but he swung off, and rode through the gate and up the lane towards the causeway like a bolt of thunder. What do you think of that?
Frodo sat for a moment looking at the fire, but his only thought was how on earth would they reach the ferry?
I don't know what to think.
Then I'll tell you what to think. You should never have gone mixing yourself up with Hobbiton folk, Mr. Frodo. Folk are queer up. But you were always a reckless lad. When I heard you had left the Brandybucks and gone off to that old Mr. Bilbo, I said that you were going to find trouble. Mark my words, this all comes of those strange doings of Mr. Bilbo's. His money was got in some strange fashion in foreign parts, they say. Maybe there is some that want to know what has become of the gold and jewels that he buried in the hill of Hobbiton, as I hear.
Frodo said nothing. The shrewd guesses of the farmer were rather disconcerting.
Well, Mr. Frodo, I'm glad that you've had the sense to come back to Buckland. My advice is, stay there, and don't get mixed up with these outlandish folk. You'll have friends in these parts. If any of these black fellows come after you again, I'll deal with them. I'll say you're dead, or have left the Shire, or anything you like. And that might be true enough, for as like as not, it is old Mr. Bilbo they want news of.
Maybe you're right,
said Frodo, avoiding the farmer's eye and staring at the fire. Maggot looked at him thoughtfully.
Well, I see you have ideas of your... It is as plain as my nose that no accident brought you and that rider here on the same afternoon. And maybe my news was no great news to you after all. I am not asking you to tell me anything you have a mind to keep to yourself, but I see you are in some kind of trouble. Perhaps you are thinking it won't be too easy to get to the ferry without being caught?
I was thinking so, but we have got to try and get there, and it won't be done by sitting and thinking. So I am afraid we must be going. Thank you very much indeed for your kindness. I've been in terror of you, and your dogs for over 30 years, Farmer Maggot. Though you may laugh to hear it, it's a pity, for I've missed a good friend, and now I'm sorry to leave so soon. But I'll come back perhaps, one day, if I get a chance.
You'll be welcome when you come. But now I've a notion. It's near sundown already, and we are going to have our supper, for we mostly go to bed soon after the sun. If you and Mr. Peregrine and all could stay and have a bite with us, we would be pleased.
And so should we. But we must be going at once, I'm afraid. Even now it will be dark before we can reach the ferry.
But wait a minute. I was going to say, after a bit of supper, I'll get out a small wagon and I'll drive you all to the ferry. That will save you a good step, and it might also save you trouble of another sort.
Frodo now accepted the invitation gratefully, to the relief of Pippin and Sam. The sun was already behind the western hills, and the light was failing. 2 of Maggot's sons and his 3 daughters came in, and a generous supper was laid on the large table. The kitchen was lit with candles, and the fire was mended. Mrs. Maggot bustled in and out. 1 or 2 other hobbits belonging to the farm household came in. In a short while 14 sat down to eat. There was beer in plenty, and a mighty dish of mushrooms and bacon, besides much other solid farmhouse fare. The dogs lay by the fire and gnawed rinds and cracked bones. When they had finished, the farmer and his sons went out with a lantern and got the wagon ready. It was dark in the yard when the guests came out. They threw their packs on board and climbed in. The farmer sat in the driving seat and whipped up his 2 stout ponies. His wife stood in the light of the open door.
You be careful of yourself, Maggot. Don't go arguing with any foreigners, and come straight back.
I will,
said he, and drove out of the gate. There was now no breath of wind stirring. The night was still and quiet, and a chill was in the air. They went without lights and took it slowly. After a mile or 2, the lane came to an end, crossing a deep dike and climbing a short slope up onto the high-banked causeway. Maggot got down and took a good look either way, north and south, but nothing could be seen in the darkness, and there was not a sound in the still air. Thin strands of river mist were hanging above the dikes and crawling over the fields.
It's going to be thick, but I'll not light my lanterns till I turn for home. We'll hear anything on the road long before we meet it tonight.
It was 5 miles or more from Maggot's Lane to the ferry. The hobbits wrapped themselves up, but their ears were strained for any sound above the creak of the wheels and the slow clop of the ponies' hoofs. The wagon seemed slower than a snail to Frodo. Beside him, Pippin was nodding towards sleep, but Sam was staring forwards into the rising fog. They reached the entrance to the ferry lane at last. It was marked by 2 tall white posts that suddenly loomed up on their right. Farmer Maggot drew in his ponies, and the wagon creaked to a halt. They were just beginning to scramble out when suddenly they heard what they had all been dreading, hooves on the road ahead. The sound was coming towards them. Maggot jumped down and stood holding the ponies' heads and peering forward into the gloom. Clip-clop came the approaching rider. The fall of the hooves sounded loud in the still, foggy air.
You'd better be hidden, Mr. Frodo,
said Sam anxiously.
You get down in the wagon and cover up with blankets, and we'll send this rider to the rightabouts.
He climbed out and went to the farmer's side. Black riders would have to ride over him to get near the wagon. Clop, 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 clop. The rider was nearly on them.
Hello there.
And called Farmer Maggot. The advancing hooves stopped short. They thought they could dimly guess a dark cloaked shape in the mist, a yard or 2 ahead.
Now then,
said the farmer, throwing the reins to Sam and striding forward.
Don't you come a step nearer. What do you want, and where are you going?
I want Mr. Baggins. Have you seen him?
Said a muffled voice. But the voice was the voice of Merry Brandybuck. A dark lantern was uncovered, and its light fell on the astonished face of the farmer.
Mr. Merry?
Yes, of course. Who did you think it was?
Said Merry, coming forward. As he came out of the mist and their fears subsided, he seemed suddenly to diminish to ordinary hobbit size. He was riding a pony, and a scarf was swathed round his neck and over his chin to keep out the fog. Frodo sprang out of the wagon to greet him.
So there you are at last. Whew. I was beginning to wonder if you would turn up at all today, and I was just going back to supper. When it grew foggy, I came across and rode up towards Stock to see if you had fallen in any ditches. But I'm blessed if I know which way you have come. Where did you find them, Mr. Maggot? In your duck pond?
No, I caught him trespassing and nearly set my dogs on him. But they'll tell you all the story, I've no doubt. Now, if you'll excuse me, mister. Merry and Mr. Frodo and all, I'd best be turning for home. Mrs. Maggot will be worrying with the night getting thick.
He backed the wagon into the lane and turned it.
Well, good night to you all. It's been a queer day, and no mistake. But all's well as ends well, though perhaps we should not say that until we reach our own doors. I'll not deny that I'll be glad now when I do.
He lit his lanterns and got up. Suddenly, he produced a large basket from under the seat.
I was nearly forgetting. Mrs. Maggot put this up for Mr. Baggins with her compliments.
He handed it down and moved off, followed by a chorus of thanks and good nights. They watched the pale rings of light round his lanterns as they dwindled into the foggy night. Suddenly, Frodo laughed. From the covered basket he held, the scent of mushrooms was rising.